welcome everybody. Welcome to another Metastock webinar. We are excited today to have John Osborn with us here to talk about a great technique that he has for unlocking a hidden hedge fund technique to succeed. So there's some pretty cool stuff. I've heard John's presentations before, and I'm excited to have him here again with us today to talk about this technique. It's actually pretty awesome. So glad you're here. As you come into the room, say hello, tell us where you're coming in from. I'm here in beautiful Salt Lake City, where we're getting lots of wet weather that we need desperately, so we're glad for that. And I'm just going to go check everything, make sure everything's up and running. I'll be right back with you. Okay, looks like we're about set to get started here in about 15 seconds. So again, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kelly Clement. I'll be your YouTube host here today. In a minute, I'll bring on Jeff Gibby, who will be our webinar host, along with John Osborn, our presenter today. So thanks for coming today. Let me go ahead and get the ball rolling, and let's get this webinar started. All right, Jeff, are you there? All right, we are live and ready to go.
All right. Hey, everybody. It's Jeff Gibby. Thanks for coming tonight. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to go ahead and read the legal disclaimer and get this thing started. So welcome. I hope you're doing well. If you're joining us on YouTube, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate it, and you'll get notified of, well, every video we do. So why wouldn't you want that? So in any case, let's go ahead and get to the legal disclaimer. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using Metastock and the accompanying software plugins. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific features and indicators within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. Metastock should have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. Our guest today, as you know, is John Osborn. John has been a friend of Metastock for a number of years. And I always say this when I kind of talk about John. I really like John. I'm also very impressed with how well he can program, how well he can present, and kind of how well he can talk about advanced technical topics. He does a really, really good job. In fact, we love bringing him in here. I love having him talk about some of the technology that he's helped design and develop for Metastock. So with that being said, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming in really good.
All right.
Turn my volume just a little bit down, but you sound good. Don't adjust your volumes at all. Let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and just turn the share over to you real quick. I'm going to make sure we can see what you're showing, and then I'm going to get out of the way.
All right, let me make sure I get the right one this time. And it looks like that one. Does that look good?
Yes, unlocking this hidden hedge fund. Perfect.
Full screen. Okay, there we go.
I'm going to get out of the way, like I promised earlier. Your turn.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, thank you and for being here tonight. Thanks, Jeff. And I'm John Osborn, and I'm from a company called Basecamp Trading. We used to be known as value charts a long time ago because that was so important to our company. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Today, we're going to talk about that value charts, an exciting patented technique that was created to turn a hedge fund around and saved it from failing and made it profitable. So you're going to have an opportunity to turn around your own trading if you'd like. Let's go through our disclaimers here. I know Jeff just did one, but let's do another one. I won't read all of this, but I do want to read a couple of lines here, and that is trading or investing carries a high level of risk and is not suitable for all persons. Before deciding to trade or invest, you should carefully consider your investment objectives, level of experience, and your ability to tolerate risk. Remember, trading is risky. Don't trade with money you can't afford to lose. And we've done our best to ensure the accuracy of the information I'm going to share with you. The webinar today is to provide you with information you can use to help you make your own independent trading decisions. And I need to show you CFTC Rule 4.41. That is, the government wants you to know that trading has both rewards and risks. And again, don't trade with food or rent money or the college fund. You'll perform better if you're using money set aside as your risk capital. And I'm not soliciting you to buy stocks, options, futures, or any other securities. Again, be careful. The market can take your money. So today we are going to talk about how to completely transform the way you are trading and start to seriously grow your account by using a very powerful patented hedge fund technique. Like I said, this technique was created to save a hedge fund, and we're sharing it with you. Now imagine being able to approach the markets every single day, armed with the sophisticated patented software that a hedge fund developed to reverse their losses into spectacular gains. Now, do you think you'd possibly improve your trading if you had these tools? And just imagine being able to identify trades with pinpoint accuracy, just like a hedge fund does. Now, if you had the information that a hedge fund has access to, ask yourself, do you think it would help you in drastically growing your trading account? If your answer is yes, I totally agree with you. And if you've never thought it was possible to get hedge fund decision tools like this, I've got great news. It's totally possible for you to get this tool right here on Metastock and use it in your own trading. Now, maybe you're thinking to yourself, yeah, John, that'd be great to trade like a hedge fund, but those hedge funds, they're so sophisticated and they got the smartest people working for them and they got the best software and the really cool tools. How could I possibly have the ability or resources to get access to them? And I have some good news. Is what I'm going to show you today is exactly what hedge funds see in real time and real world markets so that you can stay ahead of the masses, and you'll have the opportunity to add the tool to your own toolkit today. Now, I'm going to share this tool, and it's essential to my own trading. And after you see it, I'm pretty confident that you're going to want to start using it in your own trading right away. And as you know, you have a risk-free opportunity to try it out. Now, because once you see it here, you're going to see how powerful it is and how it can elevate your trading results. The tool's called value charts, and I'm going to explain how this tool, this powerful tool, can make a huge difference in your trading. Like this gain in Microsoft in just a month, or this one in Apple signaling a buy entry, getting us more than an 8% return in just a couple of days, or this trade in Solo, where it signaled a buy entry on the 30-minute chart, making more than 7% in just 3 days. Now, since you may not know me, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I spent most of my professional career as a software engineer, and I've been investing in trading throughout my lifetime. I sometimes get asked by people, if you're good trading, why are you teaching others how to trade the markets? And the reason is my dad, because he was the one who got me interested in stocks many years ago. He said to me that the only way to stay ahead financially, even for an engineer, he was an engineer and I'm an engineer, he said the only way to stay ahead is by using the stock markets. Now, he struggled throughout his life to make money in the market and always thought he could do better. Actually, he did pretty good, but I wanted to learn how to do better. And so did he. We wanted to figure out how to trade. So I think that could then teach my dad how to trade better, and I could pay him back for all the wonderful things he did for me. So I went and, this is many years ago, I spent a whole bunch of money and time learning how the markets work, but I struggled for years. And until I started following the teachings of Basecamp trading as a student, I really couldn't figure out how the markets worked and how to trade. Now, eventually, a long story short, I started to do some work for them, and they hired me, and I work for them now. And I work with them and help them create solutions and help run the trading room. But back along, by the time I learned how to trade, it turned out it was too late to teach my dad. So instead of teaching my dad, I teach others who are interested in learning how to trade so they can teach others, and on and on and on. So I hope you'll learn today how to make money in the markets better so you can teach your dad or your son or your daughter, your husband, or your best friend, because if you start getting good at trading, you're going to need someone to go out and spend the money with. So you got to learn how to trade or get your family to trade and get your friends to trade so they don't have to go to a WORK, right? And when we succeed in trading, we can give back by helping others learn to trade so they can reach their financial goals, and they'll share it with others, and on and on. I know that doing that would be helping a lot of people, and that would make my dad really proud. So let's learn how to make some money in the markets today. Now, I'd like to see each of you achieve your goals. And what you're going to learn about today is something that has the capacity to get you back on track toward achieving them. Goals that maybe you even gave up on. Maybe you had some goals in trading and you kind of just said, I don't know if it's possible, but I want to get you that hope back, because I hope you can rekindle those dreams again, because some of you will have the opportunity to transform your trading starting today. So let's get started. Let me introduce you to this essential tool that gives you the hedge fund trader's edge in your own trading. In fact, I think of this tool as the hedge fund fixer, and you're going to learn why I call it that today. And this tool is known as value charts. So let me start out by helping you understand why you need to understand what this is about and why it's important, and why many traders aren't even aware of it. And it's going to be about value and why value is important. So you might think you already know it, but it's not what most traders think it is. So let's talk about the three components of trading. Now, in order to trade, we need three things if we're going to trade well. We need price, and that's something that's provided to us as traders. And pretty much every trader is familiar with what price is. That's what makes our charts. It's the current and the historic price of the stock or the commodity, whatever you're trading. And price charted on across the chart, or displayed or plotted on a chart, shows you the movement in markets. The next part that we need is momentum. Momentum, what's that for? Well, that shows us the power and the potential follow through of a market. And momentum can be identified a number of different ways. There's plenty of indicators. Some of you might use MACD for momentum, for example. Now, we prefer to use our own custom MQ momentum because it gives us an edge. It's actually using a true strength index rather than differences between divergence, two different moving averages and their divergences and convergences. So our MQ momentum is a little bit ahead of MACD and a little more expressive, so we can read it more easily. So you can use other various momentum indicators. Now, the third component is the part that most traders aren't aware of. They know about price, they know about momentum, but it's value that's different. And what is value? Well, value lets us know whether something is overpriced or underpriced, or what we call fairly valued. And there are times when something's cheap, but it's still not a good value. And there are times when something has a really big price, but it's still a great value. Remember, we're not talking about price here. That's a separate component of this model that we just talked about. Value is separate, and regardless of price, we need to understand what the value is so we can anticipate whether it's likely to rise or fall. Once you understand this concept, you can't even imagine trading in a market without having the knowledge of its current value. Now, it's critical that you know value because it indicates the potential of price movement. Okay? And as I said, sadly, most traders don't have access to value when they trade. So I'm hoping that you're going to recognize that this is critically important. And why don't most traders use it? Because they don't have a good way of identifying it. Because value is not as readily available to us as price or momentum. There are a few things that might come close, but there's only one place where you can get this patented hedge fund tool that's been proven to show value. Now, let me explain a little bit more about value so you can understand that. I'm going to spend a little more time on why value is different than price, because so many traders will blend those two and don't recognize the differences between the two of them. So let's talk a little bit more about what is value and how it's different from price, and why value is so important in trading. Now, imagine you're out shopping for a diamond. Okay, now some of you might have already done this. Some of you might have this in your future. I don't know. But if you're out shopping for a diamond, you probably have a budget in mind and a price that you're willing to pay. So the question is, should you just go out and buy the cheapest diamond you can find without researching it? And if so, you're buying based on price without consideration of value. If your intent is to have the price of the diamond rise over time, then just getting the lowest price diamond isn't going to assure its price is going to rise. If you buy a diamond without understanding its value, even at a low price, you might be paying too much, and you may never get back the worth or get back the value or the price that you paid because you paid too much for it in the beginning. So some of you already know this, which is helpful because the concept of the diamond is and making sure that you're buying the right diamond is important. So how do we do that? Well, if we're trying to invest in a diamond, there'll be a much better chance of its price rising when we get that good value. And like I said, it's probably not going to be the lowest price diamond available. That's not going to be the best value. There's a process used by gemologists, and they have the ability to grade a diamond based on criteria that includes the color of the diamond made by impurities that are in the diamond. And the clarity of the diamond is how clear it is. How the diamond is cut also plays a role in how sparkly it is and how it appears and how it shines. And of course, the diamond size and its weight, that determines part of the value. And even where the diamond's from can affect the value. So it's quite a complex process that takes a lot of knowledge and training and experience to accurately grade a diamond to determine its value. And if we're looking for the price to rise after our purchase, it's really important to make sure that we're getting it at a good value at the time that we buy it. That way, its price is expected to increase after we buy it. So ideally, if you've ever bought a diamond, you hopefully got a certificate with that diamond, right? And ideally, we have the diamond independently certified, and that lets us know the value of the diamond. And we get that document that proves it. Once we understand its value this way, now we can check if the asking price is right, if it's too high or too low. And if we can buy the diamond knowing it's undervalued at the asking price, meaning that we're getting it at a price that's lower than it's worth, then it's likely a better purchase than just buying a cheaper diamond with an unknown value. If we don't know the value at all, then who knows if the price that we're paying is too high or too low? The seller's asking price is all we have to go by if we don't have a good understanding of its value. And that's not a great position to be in if we're trying to get good value. So as hopefully you can see that price alone does not determine value. You know, even if this was the least expensive diamond, it doesn't mean it's the best deal. Right? Even though most traders think that value is determined by price alone. So trading without understanding value is letting the seller tell you what it's worth, and they have control. Wouldn't you rather be in control when it's time to buy a diamond or a stock? And do you think that the hedge funds trade without understanding the value of what they're buying and selling? A wise hedge fund manager would never now get into something where they didn't clearly understand its value and its potential of benefiting from that purchase. They understand that you need to know the value to be a wise buyer. And now, so do you. But how can we determine value when we're trading? It took a hedge fund to figure it out, and the solution was granted a US patent. Now, for diamonds, we do have the ability to identify value, which lets us know if we're paying a fair price or not. And then we can determine if the price we're buying at is undervalued, because we want to buy things when they're below their value. If it's overvalued, we want to stay away. Now, this is great for diamonds, but what about the stock market? If we can buy markets that are undervalued and sell when they're overvalued, then we're going to trade like the hedge funds do. But unlike the diamond, there isn't a certification for stocks that we can look up and find out what the fair value for Apple stock is right now. And if there was a book or a certification, since stocks can change so quickly in just minutes sometimes, certainly over days, it would be outdated as soon as the next day. So what can we do? Well, the hedge fund that came up with this idea had that same problem, and they identified how to determine value in the stock market. And value charts is the indicator that we can now provide to identify the current value of any market on any time frame. It works on stocks, on options, futures, forex, cryptos, any symbol. And since it's patented by Basecamp Trading, which is the company I'm part of, you can only get it from Basecamp Trading. And not only is it patented, but Value Charts has been analyzed and vetted by a leading group of experts at key business schools, including Wharton and UCLA. And as I keep mentioning, it's been hedge fund proven. And here's what happened. The hedge fund incorporated Value Charts into their approach, and it changed the hedge fund from losing $62,000 a month just by applying Value Charts to generating 27,000. So that's losing 62 to gaining 27 per month. That's an $89,000 per month improvement to that hedge fund back along, simply by adding the Value Charts tool as a filter to its trading. Now, if that hedge fund was bigger, that would have been even a bigger impression. But what I want you to focus on is going from minus 62 to plus 27. That's an $89,000 improvement per month in that fund. Now, I know if it can turn around a hedge fund in such a dramatic way, it can improve anyone's trading. And this is why I call Value Charts the hedge fund fixer, because it fixed the hedge fund that was hemorrhaging cash. So you're in the right spot. Be glad you're here, because nobody else can offer this tool but Basecamp Trading. And I want to tell you more about this unique and valuable hedge fund trading tool. So how does Value Charts work? You think it's got to be really complex and complicated to figure all this stuff out. But Value Charts takes that complexity and makes it almost intuitive with little or no training. And the concept of value is simplified down to just 3 colors on our charts. There's 2 sets of 3 colors here, but this is the color mapping that we use. Now look how the colors on Value Charts, this is the indicator showing here on the left, and then we have color mapping, just what we label these over on the right. Okay, in the middle we have green bars. Notice it's green in the middle. At that point we are what's called fair valued. Okay, and that means the market's price is fairly valued. Above that, we get into the yellow, and that means the market's moderately overvalued. If we go all the way up into the red, you can see a little bit peeking out into the red up here, then that's when we are significantly overvalued. Similarly, if we go lower on the yellow, that's moderately undervalued, and significantly undervalued way down here in the deep red. So let's see if this is simple enough to follow. If I were looking to buy a diamond, where would I want to buy it? So think about that for a second. If I wanted to buy a diamond, where would I want to buy it? Okay, of course, when it's significantly undervalued. So if you said significantly undervalued, you can go ahead and type it in there if you want. I'm watching the questions here. But yeah, significantly undervalued. That way, if we're buying it when it's undervalued, that's why the price that we're getting it at is below its fair value. So it's going to just naturally want to move up back into fair value if you're buying it effectively when it's on sale. Now, if you're following what I'm saying, you're beginning to see how value is actually more important than price. In fact, we can determine whether or not we should be buying something without even knowing the price, right? We can look right here and say, all right, this is a good time to buy it down here. I don't even know what the price is. There may not even be a correlation between price and value. In fact, you're going to see in the chart in a second here that there isn't always a correlation where you get a spike in price and also a spike in value. They're not directly related. Okay. So it's going to say that we can determine whether or not we want to be buying something without even knowing price. But of course, we want to know price. But value is that important. I bet no one's ever told you that before, probably because most people don't consider value in their trading. But perhaps you've never talked with a hedge fund trader before. So let's learn more about how we can use this really important information in our trading. So I want to mention these colors. Why do we use the colors that we have? It's because we want the tool to be easy to use on day one. So there's going to be a training package that comes with it, but you don't need to use that because we've simplified it to the point where hopefully it's just obvious. And most of us know the colors of a traffic light, where green means go, yellow or amber means caution and red means stop. So like a stoplight, we can drive right through the green lights and watch out for when they turn yellow or even red. These mean caution or stop. And for us traders, it may mean stop and go the other way when we see red. So the value chart signals help us know when it's time to move ahead and when it's time to be cautious and perhaps stop and reverse. Most traders don't have these signals because they're not looking at value. They don't even know when it's okay to proceed and when it's time to stop. And just like in driving, it's dangerous to trade without heeding these signals. So if you're trading without having value, you're at a serious disadvantage, and most traders don't even know it. So how do we use it? Well, in its most simplified form, we buy markets when they're undervalued and we sell markets when they're overvalued. That is, we buy them when they're on sale and we sell them when they're overpriced. And just like when we're shopping, we don't want to buy something when it's overvalued because it's not likely to go any higher. And we don't want to sell something that's already at a low value because it's not likely to go lower. In other words, we don't want to go short at the bottom down here because it's likely to not continue moving lower. So we use value to help us determine if the market has more room to run in that direction. And if we're in a long position and we start to see red bars at the top, then we're likely to see it stop rising. Similarly, if we're short in a market and we see red bars appearing below, then we're likely to stop seeing it falling. So what does it look like when we add it to our charts? Now, this is Tesla on the daily chart. Okay, and I've got a question here is, what is the indicator based off of relative strength? You know what? I haven't looked at the guts of the indicator lately, but it is looking at historical range and identifying what's a fair range value. So it's not specifically relative strength. It's a little bit more complex than that. But it does look at the range of prices and determines if we're in a good value place or not. It is proprietary and it is, again, patented. Okay, so this is Tesla in the daily chart. We only have price available to us right here. Okay, and when we're only looking at price, now that you understand value, how do we know whether the current price is fairly priced or too high or too low? It's difficult to tell, right? Now that you're trying to understand what value is, if we looked at this last bar over here, it might be a little hard to see, but there's a down bar here over here on the right. We might be struggling because looking at price alone, many traders might see this as a potential short entry where it's moving lower and maybe we're going to break lower, break this low here and keep going. But now let's help us out by adding in value charts. And this is the value charts indicator corresponding to each bar that's above here. Now we can see the whole new dimension of value. Now look at the high and low peaks on the price chart and what the corresponding value level is. And notice how value isn't necessarily aligned with the peaks on the chart, which is really interesting. Okay, so you might get a peak in value, but it doesn't necessarily correlate with another peak here. Here's a peak where we don't really have as significant a high of value. Here's when we have lower value, even though we have a higher price. That would be called the value divergence. Okay, so this is why value must be considered separately from price. And most retail traders aren't trading with the knowledge of value because it's hidden from them. They're not even considering it in their trading decisions. They're just using the top chart. Hedge fund traders have access to this type of information, and they do use it in their decision making to make a much more informed value-based decision. And that helps them get in and out of their trades. Now, some people ask, what do the hedge fund traders know that I don't know? And this is a clear example of one of them. If you had the info that they have, you could make the same decisions that they make. That is, with value charts, you can begin to trade your own account like a hedge fund would trade it. Now let's look at that last bar again a little closer, and this time with the added knowledge of value. Remember, price was telling us here that it was going to head lower, but what is value charts telling us? Well, if we look over here at value charts, it's indicating a yellow lower color here, which means moderately undervalued. That means that this market is less likely to keep moving lower. Because it's undervalued, it's likely to go back up to the fair value and maybe even reverse and go higher. So without value charts, you might have gotten into a trade expecting it to move lower, but with value charts, we can see that the market's already undervalued at that point, And therefore, taking a trade to the downside is probably not a good idea. In fact, value is telling us that it's likely time to buy Tesla here when other people might have been selling it. Now, let's advance time here and see what happened. Turns out that value charts would have saved us from a potential loss here. In fact, we got a reversal at this point, and an optimum entry point for a long was in play. So instead of taking a loss here, you could have used the knowledge of value charts to tell you that this was a good entry, and you could have had a profit here. So if you're new to using a hidden value like this, it might be surprising when you start seeing this, but it's something that you can easily get used to when you start using it in your trading decisions, and you start seeing some better trades coming along. And once you get used to using value, it's hard to imagine trading without it. Again, this is the information that hedge funds have access to and they use, and it gives them an edge. And it's this kind of inside information that could give you that kind of edge in your own trading. And without it, now that you've seen it, you realize you're at a serious disadvantage. For many of you, up until today, you weren't even aware of it. Now let's talk a little bit more about how value charts can help anticipate price movement. In other words, how can we use it to make better trades? Let me just check a couple more questions here. You spent a great deal of time explaining how a diamond has its value determined, but not a single word on what your tool does to determine value. Well, if you want to read the patent, you can look the patent up and look at all the details in exactly how the tool works. Remember, I know how to drive a car, and I don't necessarily have to have any understanding of how the engine works. I just need to know that I put my finger on the start button and the engine starts up, and then I can focus on driving. And if I spend too much time worrying about what the engine's doing, I'm probably never going to get in the car and drive. And when I'm trading, I want to be a better trader, not necessarily a better indicator builder. So it's actually more efficient for traders to focus on using the tools rather than trying to understand the details. Now, I know that a lot of people want to know exactly how they work, okay? But if you spent time learning how to use indicators and how to trade them, and that let your testing prove that they work, you probably will get better long-term results on those. But as an engineer, I agree with you. I like to understand how they work as well. Okay, and Christopher says, let me see here. Extreme highs, Larry Williams, extreme highs and extreme lows. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. It incorporates historical support and resistance. Yeah, we're not using historical support and resistance. I do know that. So anyways, let me keep going here. In other words, I want to teach you how to make better trades with this. So let's talk about what the meaning of these colors is. So one of the ways that we can use value charts is to think of it in terms of its likelihood to stop price moving in the current direction. That is, if we're moving higher and we get significantly overvalued, like a red light, then there's a more than 90% chance that we're not going to move higher any further. We might just go sideways, we might even reverse. Similarly, we're equally likely to consolidate or reverse when we're significantly undervalued. So whenever we see this red, this means that 9 out of 10 times, actually greater than that, it's more like 92, 93% of the time, when you have the red appear, it's not going to keep going up at that point. Sometimes when you do get more than one, you'll get 3 in a row. You'll see that sometimes, but most of the time you will get a pause or a reversal once you get into the red. And like I said, 93% of the time. I say greater than 90%. And even for the yellow, there's a 2/3% likelihood, or 66, 67% chance that if it gets into the yellow, it's not going to make it all the way up into the red. It's going to pause and then maybe go back into the green. So this gives us the ability to anticipate movement. Okay, if we see red or even yellow on value charts, it's likely we're going to pause and might even reverse. And this is how we can use hidden value to our advantage. Even if we don't know how the indicator does it, we can still utilize just the colors and keep it simple. I mean, don't we need more simplicity in our lives? I think we do, especially in our trading. Now, here's an example of how value charts can help us with those anticipation of value extremes. This is Apple on the daily chart. And what I want to do is have it draw some lines in here, and each of these lines are aligned with a red indication from value charts. So if you follow each of these lines down, even this one right here, and it's really hard to see, but there is a red toe on there. I call it a red toe. So some of us at Basecamp, we call it a red tip. I like a toe, so it tells you it's at the bottom. And we call it a red hat when it's at the top, by the way. But we got a little red tip or toe down here, and sure enough, that was at the bottom of a descent. So we reversed. So if you look at this, notice how each time we got a red, significantly undervalued indication, we saw a stop in the decline and even a possible reversal in price. So each time, price moved back up. Similarly, if we look for the higher ones, in other words, where the red above or significantly overvalued points are, if you look, almost every single time, we come back down again. Now, sometimes it just goes sideways. Notice how here we moved up and then it just kind of died out for 4 bars. But remember, this was a daily chart, and 4 days is a long time, especially for intraday traders. And then we had a more significant drop here, another significant drop here, here, and here. Now, there are times, like I said, it works about 93% of the time. So sometimes it doesn't work, but it's surprising how often it does. You could say maybe this one here is an example of it not working, but look how well it works in some of these cases. And sometimes when you get a trade, just this one trade can make up for a whole bunch of other trades when you have that kind of clarity. So I hope, speaking of clarity, I hope this makes it clear how important knowing value is to your trading. Again, this has nothing to do with price. It has to do with value. Okay? And it's how we can get our maximum gains. Now, in Basecamp trading, we're all about price action trading. And we don't just sell systems that will tell you like advisories, et cetera. We actually will teach you how to read the charts and use the charts yourself. So we give all of our Platinum members our Naked Trading Mastery course, and we call it Naked Trading because it refers to reading what the charts are telling us behind all the indicators. Naked Trading Mastery is our price action core course, and it's part of everything we do in our trades. So we try to use as few indicators as possible, and we're really picky about the indicators we add. And whenever we do use an indicator, and we still do, right? It doesn't mean we don't trade with any indicators by any means. We still do use indicators, and we make sure that when we use them, that we can see through those indicators so we can utilize that fundamental price action in coordination with that critical indicator information. And value charts is one of those critical indicators because it's impossible to see value without an indicator. So we often use value in combination with price action to trade. And the kinds of things that we look for with price action would be price breaking through a previous price level, which could be at a pivot. It could be a trend line, like pauses in trends, what we call a micro trend or a micro uptrend or a micro downtrend. It could be a pattern like pennants and triangles and head and shoulders. And here's an example right here of one where we were trending higher. We're putting in higher highs, higher lows, and then we put in a lower high. At that point, we draw a line to connect the end of the uptrend here. And we call this a micro downtrend. Now, what we're looking for when this happens in a micro downtrend is we had this initial move up, and then we have a pause. Okay, and at some point, what we're anticipating, and when we draw this line from the first or the highest point here to the next pivot, we're anticipating that we can break this line. And when we do, we're going to run. Because this is a pause right here in a longer move. That's what we're looking for here. Okay, so this all sets up as a micro downtrend line. Now the question is when price is approaching our line, once it's established, because it got established right here, we come back to revisit it. And the question is, are we ready to break through that line right now, or is it going to drop and put in another move lower and maybe try it again over here? So we want to know if it's likely to break out right here. Well, that's where value charts can help us in this type of trading in combination here. So what do? Let's turn on value charts so we can see what's happening. And if we line up where this line is right here with this one, we can see that even though it's rising up to here, we're still fairly valued. That means that we are not ready to since we're not yellow, we're not red, we aren't ready to stop and reverse. So what we can do is we can anticipate that we're going to break through this line this time. If this had a yellow or red top to it, then we probably wouldn't want to take the trade because it's probably not going to be able to follow through. But since it's green and we don't have yellow or red on the top, we're ready to take this trade. So we get our order ready and get ready to jump in. Our initial targets will be this high and this high. Let's move forward here and see what happened. So this thing really took off, and that's what we're looking for here. You know, we're looking for expansion, then compression, and then another wild expansion. And sure enough, with the knowledge of value charts, we had the idea that it could break higher, and it actually broke through this pivot and this pivot. It really performed well. Okay. Now, sometimes after we break through a pattern like this, it will come back and retest that line again. We can use value charts to tell us that, yeah, this got red. It moved up so fast that the value got overvalued. Therefore, we don't really want to stay in this trade. So we can comfortably take our profits at these points once you see the red hat, once you get the red up here. So now we know to get out at this point. And we have a beautiful short-term trade entry from here with a great confirmation that it's time to exit up here at a nice profit going through both of our initial targets. Okay, but the other thing to point out now, since we have red up here, now there's a better likelihood that this trade is going to come back and retest this line. And even though it might not look like it here, and if you turn on a momentum indicator, you probably see a lot of energy coming here in this move. What value charts is telling us is that it wants to pull back to this line perhaps. So let's move forward and see what it does. Sure enough, it came right back down to the line and it stopped for a low at this line. Now it moved back up again, but it came down right to that line. We call this a last kiss. But notice when we did this, we cleared out our value yellows and reds, and we did not get yellow or red over here. Okay, so we've completely cleared ourselves from value. And now we have an opportunity to take a second trade right here and take it up again, because again, we were looking for a move higher here on a bigger move up, a pause, and then a jump higher. So this is a last kiss. And now that we've got a clear fair value opportunity, we can just jump into this trade and take it again. And here's what happened. Okay, and then we get over here, and that's when we put the brakes on. It went a little bit further, and we could ride that up, but we wouldn't want to take another long position here. Okay, so hopefully you can see how we can use a combination of price action information along with value charts to really make a good trade out of this. Okay, and then adding in value helps us see things in a different way. Now we profit off of this setup twice. And now that you've seen how value charts can help us, find those critical value-based turning points in the market that help us trade, let's look at some of the other special enhancements that only the Metastock version has. And we have this indicator developed for different platforms, but only the Metastock version has some of these really cool features because only Metastock platform offers these kinds of features built into the platform. Now, these can make it easier to use value charts and to pinpoint your trade entries and your exits. So the first thing is, and I know most of you like these, are signals. And we have incorporated signals into the value charts tool. Okay, and we have buy signals and sell signals for value charts buy and value charts sell. And you can see a buy signal here, a buy signal here, and a sell signal up here. We also have what are and I created these terms, I hope they make sense, but the concept of pressure, a bullish pressure and bearish pressure. And this is an example here of bullish pressure. So see how we went up and then we pull back a little bit. And as we were dropping here, value charts was telling us, hey, there's a good chance that we're not going to keep dropping here. And although we aren't getting a full signal to make a buy entry here, it was telling us that there's pressure to push us higher. Now, how I use that is to get out of a long position if we're still in one here. Now, we would take profits here, here, here on the way up, perhaps. But if we had a trail stop, we probably want to stay in it. And this would be an indication that we're stopping the descent. Plus, if you look over here, value charts is telling us that as well, and that's what's generating the signals. Okay, so don't be afraid to read value charts and just not necessarily just rely on the signals, although you could. It's actually suggested, or I suggest, that you learn how to read value charts and get a better feel for what makes those signals appear. Let the signals be a reminder, and then read what the chart is telling us to help you out. So pretty cool that Metastock has these capabilities for signals like this. Okay. Now, sometimes it makes us feel like we're cheating a little bit when we have these kinds of signals, and compared to trading without value. But you might find that trading with value charts even makes your trading a little bit more fun, because it's fun to be right, isn't it? It's fun to get in at the right point and then watch it move, especially if everybody else is questioning it and you have the secret inside information. So another thing you get in Metastock version are value trend dots, and these are unique to Metastock. And this lets you save on real estate, so you don't have to have value charts down here. You can just use the dots. So you can optionally turn these on, and then you'll get your value indications by the color that was hit. So you can see you got to moderately undervalued here, you got significantly overvalued here, etc. And you can use the dots to help you. You can still turn on the signals, but you can also get the value charts showing up here. That way you can put another indicator like MQ momentum down here. You also get MQ trend showing us the value trend ribbon. MQ trend is the separate indicator that we sell separately and use, and we've built that technology into the ribbon. So now we can look for bullish sections and bearish sections that align with the direction of the trades that we want to take. So you can use that as a filter. Both of these are included in this tool. Now, all of these work together to find optimal trades. This is the SPX weekly chart, giving us an optimal sell signal entry here. And this is, I didn't show the entry signal down here, but up here is the sell. Okay, and this is the actual signal showing us at this long run that we had a sell come in. It preceded a several week pullback. This is, again, the weekly chart. Okay, so the signal was followed by several weeks of downward movement, at which point we became, if you look down here, you got significantly undervalued. There's your trend dot if you want to turn it on, or your value dot. And here is the red indication here. So at that point right there, it said, hey, we're probably not going to keep moving lower. So start to tighten up your stops and consider a reversal here. Well, sure enough, we got a signal where we broke the previous bar's high right here as we were increasing in value. And that gave us another opportunity to go long and another 5 weeks of up move. Okay, all the way up until we got a bearish pressure signal here, accompanied by a value chart significantly overvalued. Now, most of you know you can't trade the SPX, right? You can trade options on the SPX, you could trade the SPY, but the SPX is really like a moving average. You can't trade it. But it's really important to have this knowledge in the market, because what the SPX does as a whole can dictate what its members do. Right. So if we are monitoring what's happening with the SPX and we see a sell signal here, then maybe we want to look for short trades, or at least sell our long positions here when we're trading other charts, other things that are included in the S&P 500. Right. And if you're looking at small cap stocks or mid cap stocks, you can use the Russell and put this on the RTY, for example, or IWM, maybe some of you use. And then you can monitor what's happening. And these are weeks. So you can be in a trade for quite a while here. And that's talking about some pretty big moves. Okay. Now think for a moment how much easier your trading would be if you had this kind of knowledge at your fingertips when you're trying to get in and out of your trades. When we're using value charts on this type of overarching chart, it can really simplify the rest of your trading. Okay. This is information you can actually use when you're trading. It's something that can be applied across all of your trades when you're trading. And this is why we say having a hedge fund tool like value charts can completely transform your trading with this knowledge, getting in and out of the trades at the opportune time. Now, I know I've already packed a lot into this tool and we haven't covered it all yet. It includes more things. And remember this, we talked earlier about price and momentum and value. Well, we're going to give you another indicator, which we sell by itself for hundreds of dollars. And that's the MQ momentum indicator. And we've built that into this tool. MQ momentum is our high-end solution that helps you see momentum in your trading. Okay. And though we like to focus on price action, it's momentum like value that isn't easy to see just by looking at price. So value and momentum are the things that we like to add to our charts. Every single one of our charts will have MQ momentum, and almost all of our charts we're taking value into consideration across all things from futures to equities. And the solution I'm going to be offering here includes all three of these components. So you don't have to get them separately. They're all included. That's why we call it the Value Charts Complete Suite. Now, this is the picture of MQ momentum. I don't want to go into too much detail here. I do want to point out that just simply how to use it is one of the easiest ways to use it is watch this white line. When the white line is rising at the same time that price is rising, you have an alignment. So in the case here where you have at point A, you're both moving up, everything's honky-dory when they're aligned. But here you can see prices moving lower right here at point B, but at this point here, notice how the white line didn't move as low as here. So we have price dropping at the same time momentum is rising. So this is what's called a bullish divergence, where the indicator is telling us something different, and then we can say, all right, this is a false move lower. It's not likely to continue moving lower. Okay? So the result was that it jumped from that point forward. So that was moving forward on a bullish divergence. This has nothing directly to do with value, because remember there was three parts. It was price, momentum, and value. This is separate. So we can combine momentum and value together now to help us trade even better. So momentum is being included here so you can look at these kinds of things and identify those situations in combination with value. And you can imagine you're unstoppable when you do that. The other thing that we can completely stack the deck in our favor in all of our trades is we can use what we call multi-time frame analysis. And that's a kind of a fancy name, but what we're doing is we're looking at two different time frames at the same time, and we're looking at value and we're looking at momentum. Here we have value charts down below and MQ momentum here. We're bringing them together as one to help us see it on both of these charts. And here we can get a signal where we're getting long signals here on, say, for example, a weekly chart. And over here, we are getting the buy signal on the lower time frame chart. Okay, this is actually a daily chart here and a 30-minute chart. You can choose whichever ones you want. I think our templates come with a weekly chart and a daily chart, and then you can adjust it whichever way you want after that. Okay, so it's trading this way, when we see that we're bullish on the weekly or the higher time frame, whether it's the daily or whatever, you know that if we're already bullish on the higher time frame, then our trades are likely to be more successful on the lower time frame. And that's why we look at them side by side. Again, multi-time frame analysis. And you get even more because Metastock offers more features. You're going to get the expert commentary. So whenever you get those signals, the expert commentary can provide you with text that describes what you want to do. So here's the VC buy opportunity. It says, conditions indicate this market's momentum is gaining at the same time its relative valuation is still low, representing a value buy that has potential energy to move higher and room to run. That's why it's a VC buy opportunity. Okay, and you can see there's considerations here. And you also get a bar close readout, which tells us what it was at the close, not just at the peak. So you get a bunch of different things here when you get signals set up on the chart. So it's really helpful to have that expert commentary. And for those of you who like to scan across many charts or many markets to find opportunities, there's 8 different scans that are available. These are explorers, and you can run these to find out which markets are currently offering. Maybe you just want to look for who's got a buy signal right now, who's got a sell signal, or where are we with that bearish or bullish pressure, or in this case, when we get extremely overvalued. I like this one here. When you use this scan, it will say, all right, these are the markets that are extensively overvalued. In other words, they got really, really red. And the more you get into the red, the more likely you're going to bounce back the other way. So you've got an extremely overvalued and extremely undervalued search, and then even a significantly over one. The significantly over one is just is not as extreme as the extreme one. So extreme is really extreme, and significantly just means it got red. So this one and this one's the most extreme one right here. If you're looking for where are the things that are really pushing value, so we can anticipate going the other way. And of course, we got a user's guide to help you out. This one goes into a lot more detail. If you do want to read it, you don't have to, because it's pretty self-explanatory, I think, but it doesn't hurt to skim it, know what's in there, and read whatever is of interest to you. And you'll learn some more subtle uses of how to use MQ momentum, how to identify those divergences I pointed out. So you've got that as a guide. So you get a lot. All these things on the right here, the value charts, the dots, the momentum, value trend ribbon, which again incorporates the smarts of a wholly separate indicator called MQ trend that we sell. You've got your signals, your explorations, your expert commentary, and there's also other ways we can use the tool. So there's different techniques that we can apply in a more advanced way, so you can learn about those things. But just keeping it simple and waiting for a signal here and a signal there to get in and out can really make a difference in your trading. Okay, so either if you want to get more complex or just keep it simple, it'll work, and it'll be just as effective. And maybe you squeak out a little more if you're really taking advantage of all the little nooks and crannies that are provided. Okay, so as you can see, trading with value can transform your trading. And I hope you can also see that if you're trading without it, you're at a disadvantage, a serious disadvantage. So if it ever feels like the market's chewing you up and eating you for lunch, perhaps it's time you got the tools and the information that the hedge fund traders are using. And they have those tools to find these things before they happen. And those are the tools. And like this one is the tool that can help identify optimal entries and exits. And it gives you an edge that other traders aren't aware of. They don't even know about this until you explain it to them. So why would you want to trade without having this information now that you know it exists? And why would you put yourself at a disadvantage to those hedge funds that are using it and raking in money from those who don't? Because you can get it now. You can get it right now. So you get trades like this one in ABV. That's a 12%. That's just in the first hour and a half of the market open. And these gains aren't even using options. These are just flat out stock gains. So if you used options, it could have even been a lot more impressive. This $21 rise in Facebook, or now known as Meta, over a weekend. Okay. And here, I told you earlier that I'd unlock hidden hedge fund techniques to improve your trading. And I showed you how our easy to use value charts tool lets you trade like a hedge fund and exposes that hidden information that's behind the charts so you can get those massive profits. You now have the opportunity to transform your own trading using value charts to trade like a hedge fund. Remember, it's this patented technology that was vetted by key business schools. I actually have the names. I don't have them with me here, but I can tell you if you're interested, the names of the people, the PhDs who did the vetting and proof of that it was, effective. How many indicators do you have that are vetted by PhDs at business schools? Probably not many. This one was part of the patenting process, actually. And because this is patented, you only can get it from us, from Basecamp Trading. And we made it available at Metastock. So you can get it right now and start trading like a hedge fund today. So here is what you're going to get. And you can see you get value charts, MQ momentum, the value trend ribbon, all built in. Again, we sell MQ momentum. I think we've raised the price on MQ momentum now. It's actually, I think it's $397 now. The MQ trend is also $397. So actually the value of this has gone up, but you can pick up all of this for $997. And don't forget too, is that you get a 30-day money back guarantee, meaning that you try it out. If it doesn't work for you, get your money back. Okay. I don't want you to buy something that isn't going to work for you or you can't figure it out. But I'm pretty confident that when you give it a try and you add it to your chart, you're going to start making better decisions even without reading that manual. Now, I want you to read the manual. I don't want to say throw the manual away. I think it's worthwhile reading the manual. But I think it'll start providing for you almost immediately when you start to understand how it works. And you get all these different things. Remember, we have those dots and signals, the trends, alerts, etc. I didn't even mention we have alerts. There's a setup. If you enable them, you can get the alerts. All these things, again, that 30-day money back guarantee, it's a great value. So let me see if there's any more questions. I see, which time frame does value charts work better on? And does it apply for FX trades? So value charts works on all time frames. That's one of the nice things about it. In fact, most of what we do at Basecamp Trading is, I don't know if like ambidextrous isn't the right term, left and right, but it works universally. I use the term, since I'm a computer engineer, I use the term as recursive. So I like to look for value alignment between different setups. So I like to look for being ready to take a trade on the daily chart based on value, and then look for trades that are aligned with that on the 4-hour chart and then on the 30-minute chart, and get them all aligned to get me a better idea of or a better chance that we're going to get the follow through. Okay, so it works across all those time frames. It works on even sub-minute charts, if those are available. It'll work on tick charts, and yeah, it works great on Forex. Okay, any other questions? And I do have it up and running if anyone wants to look at specific markets here. Hopefully it's going to cooperate. I think it is. This is Microsoft right here, by the way. So you can see we got a couple of buy signals here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. We had a sell signal up here, which is a beautiful sell. Then ended up with a buy signal here for this run up. Another buy signal for this little run up, but we got a couple more buy signals here. And back here, this was in December, we got this sell signal. It would be nice to take advantage of some of these moves, wouldn't it? It looks all crowded here, but if I shrink this down a little bit more, you get a better feel for the signals here. So there's a buy and a jump, a buy and a move back up. Then we got the sell. So waiting for a new signal here. We did get moderately overvalued. So this is the daily chart here. We got moderately overvalued today. So this is an indication that we're not going to keep rising. I remember we read this by saying, all right, there's a 2 out of 3 chance that it's not going to keep going. Now, sometimes you'll get the 2 out of 3 chance, and 1 out of 3 times it will go up and hit into the red like we did here. So we had a very clear sell opportunity here.
Maybe since Pierre was interested in FX, maybe we should look at EUR equals the euro.
What's this? So EUR, is that going to bring up? Yeah. I don't usually look at.
Yeah, no problem. EUR equals would be for euro, US dollar.
Okay. We're getting some warnings here to sell here on the daily, and it's still rising a little bit. So that means it's contradicting here. But we're getting that also. Maybe we got the daily and the daily here. Let's move this down to a lower time frame here. Sometimes, what are typical Metastock traders? What time frames do you guys like to trade in? Do you know, Jeff? Are these? Does a typical Metastock trader hold for hours, or do they hold for days, or they hold for weeks or months? What's a typical time frame?
Well, I could look at exact statistics, but I would say like there's a good chunk that look at daily and position hold and hold for several months. And I'd also say there's a good chunk that look at 60 and 30-minute charts. I think it really depends on what version of Metastock they're using, but I'd say either daily or 60 are going to be safe.
Okay, so daily, so not really long term, but not really short term either, kind of medium.
It's really all over the board. I don't have the statistics here, but yeah, I would say I'd say most of them are holding positions for less than 3 months, and some of them are extremely active. So okay. I know it's a very broad question, and we actually do have the data, and it's actually all over the place. So there you go.
All right. Well, that's interesting. And that's how it is on other platforms too. I know we have people, I always think of people who are investing are getting into trade and with a time in mind, and people who are trading are getting into trades with a price in mind as their exit. So if you're based on time, that means you're holding till you're a certain age, whereas if you're trading, you actually have a target in mind when you're getting out. This one's interesting here, how we had this really strong rise, and then we were getting these warnings here. It was a little premature, but look what happened. It just died out. And it was saying, okay, sell, sell. So if you got in down here, it was saying, all right, get ready. We might not keep rising here. And it did flatten right out on the 30-minute chart here.
We have a request to look at Meta. So not Metastock, but just, Facebook. META.O.
Yep, I got that one. All right, so we're under a VC buy signal right now. So that's on the 30-minute chart. Okay, but we're still under bearish pressure to hold the prices down here. We had a VC sell back here. Wouldn't you have liked to have gotten in Facebook right at that point? Let me just move this over here. Imagine if you saw this sideways move here right at the end of this consolidation zone, you ended up with a VC sell signal. I would have liked to have taken advantage of that one there. But right now we got a couple of sell signals that's starting to lose steam here, and bearish pressure coming in is happening after we got this buy signal. So there was a sell, buy. And when you see them alternating quickly between this, that means the stock's a little confused. And to me, that means step back. But when you get that VC buy signal and momentum's in your favor with it as well, then sometimes that can work out well. But I wouldn't have mind having a sell right here and take advantage of this. And then this buy was nice. But this is see right here, we got the bearish pressure, and then we had a little bit of a drop. So if you were in this, once you get that bearish pressure, take some profits or just hold off, and you could go short here. Okay, then we had another bounce, another bearish pressure, then a drop. So we really are still rising on this initial VC buy here. Okay, we are getting a bearish divergence. See right here where you have a higher pivot high, but your momentum is dropping off. See how that's happening? Remember I mentioned about divergences? So that's how you look at this. See how this right here had a pivot high that was higher than these two pivots. So this is a warning though, even though it's going higher, it's telling us be careful. It's probably going to reverse and go lower here.
Yeah, those divergence on momentums are powerful. You should not ignore those.
That's right.
I think we have time for one more, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
Let's take a look at Tesla, TSLA.O, I think.
No, Tesla's been a tough one. I looked at Tesla and I was hoping to give that as an example, and Tesla's been messing with us, and that's because of its fearless leader, right? So he has been kind of neglecting the company, and I probably should be careful in how I word this, but it feels to me like he's been doing so much with Twitter that he has been affecting and kind of polluting the stock. So, he's part of the reason why it was pushed lower here, because he was selling Tesla to pay for Twitter, wasn't he? And when you sell a lot, like billions, that pushes the price down. Usually you got to take like 18 weeks.
Yeah, I thought it was like 40. Yeah, it was 40 something billion dollars or something. It was crazy.
Yeah, Elon Musk is now the first person to lose 200 billion in value or something. I think I read that somewhere.
That's probably a tough night to go through.
Yeah, I would bet it would be. But look what's happened here. We got a VC sell signal up here. Mm-hmm. And I would have loved to have a sell signal right there and take advantage of all this. We got a buy signal right at the bottom. Okay, and up we went. Then we got our bearish pressure. We went sideways there, followed by a sell signal. Down we went. Bullish pressure. And I changed these to magenta and blue so they stand out a little better. The default is red and green, but you can change your colors there. But see, each time we had our bullish pressure, we had a little bit of a rise up. Beautiful in how that works. And the same thing up here. Bearish pressure drop, bearish pressure drop. Each of these points can be great entry signals to jump in on these moves. So had you taken every one of these signals, I think almost every one of them here worked out. This one you had to have a pretty good stop on. But look at these. Repeatedly, one after another, really nice entries.
Let's see. Bill has a question. Did you say earlier that there is a template that shows two charts of a ticker for each different aggregated period?
Yeah, well, we're looking at it right now, right? So this is the left chart, and the right chart, we're looking at the daily and the 30 minutes. And as I'm sure all of you know, you can just switch over here to say, let's look at the weekly. And we can go over here. If you wanted to do you could use the 30-minute over here and then go to the 5-minute over here. Then you can do that. then you have your combination. And then, of course, you know, you can expand this chart and just look at that one.
All right, we're running out of signal, so if you have any more, let us know. Let's talk just real quickly. Can you show the scans that are available and just talk real quickly about, we don't have to run a scan, but obviously with Metastock, maybe just show where the scans are and kind of what they're called. Also, I love in 18.2 that you can actually just type in MQ and it'll just list all the microquant tools right there in the search box. I don't know if you've played with that much.
Yeah, I've got a couple other scans in here. I got also our Trender Pro product. But yeah, this is, so there's our Trender Pro, and then we've got all the value chart scans. And I just did a scan on the VC buy and sell across the NASDAQ here earlier. And like I said, this would be any of your bearish pressures. So if you were looking for where am I having bearish pressure right now, you can go ahead and run the scan on just bearish pressure across whatever market frame or market sector that you want to use, or, you know, whatever subset or whatever. If you wanted to look for what's red above or red below down here, significantly overvalued or significantly undervalued, and that extreme one, I think that's over 10, whereas significantly overvalued is it's I didn't explain this, but it's actually quantified to a +8, and this would be a +10. So that means we're extremely overvalued. And down here, this is when you get your major buy and sell signals. Now, today we didn't get many. These were the buy and sell signals for today. Okay, so we have to look at these charts to figure out which one was a buy and which one was a sell. But these are the results from that.
Okay. Thank you. That's great. Jill, and I know I told you it was the last one, but Jill would like to look at XOM if you don't mind.
Sure.
And thank you for showing that. I actually was, we were talking about this a little bit doing a refresher this morning in our sales training. And I was like, one of the things that a lot of people like is just the ability to see a list of all those stocks that are extremely undervalued or extremely overvalued. And yes, I really like the way you put together those explorations.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it there. All right. So we go back and look at the history here. There's a VC sell signal before a big drop. Here we had bearish pressure, big drop, bullish pressure, bigger drop. We had a VC sell signal here, and then bullish pressure here, and then watch out, watch out, watch out. When this happens here, if you're long, this is take profits, take profits, take profits. Move your stop up to break even, but let it run in this case. Okay, and then you had bullish pressure here, and we're under a VC buy signal. So the VC buy signals are stronger than the pressure signals. The ones that have the letters on them are the stronger ones. So knowing this on the daily, about 4 or 5 days ago, we got a buy signal. We're anticipating a move up on 30 minutes. So what you'll probably find is that upward movement at the time this started anyways, upward movement is easier than downward movement. But if you're trading longer term on the daily, this would be a great signal. You'd be up right now. And even if you took the bullish pressure signal back here on December 6th, you'd be way up.
Cool. That's it. I want to kind of just go through kind of the offer again for everybody and kind of talk about that. But before I do that, I want to say thank you for spending and being generous with your time tonight and going through all the symbols that everybody looked for and asked for. I always really appreciate it when you come and spend some time with us.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're talking to me, right? Or all our listeners? I think you mentioned talking to me.
I was talking specifically to you, but I will thank the audience for coming later. And we definitely appreciate the audience. So, you know, especially the ones that like and subscribe if they're watching on YouTube. And that's good. We appreciate it no matter what. Thank you for watching and spending some time with us. So thank you, John. I'm going to take over for a minute and just
recap. You're very welcome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and I'll turn this back on. Let me go ahead and change the presenter here. And just a few things that I'd like to talk about. I've actually got my Metastock open as well, but I think John does such a good job actually talking about it that I want to just kind of come in here and talk a little bit about the fact that it's a patented methodology. There's a patent if you want to look it up and see what it is. I love the story, and it's been a very popular add-on, but you know, they took a $90,000 difference to a hedge fund that was losing money, implemented it into what they were doing, and now are making money. A 90,000 from 60K to 30,000, 60K in the hole to 30,000. Quite a difference just using that, and all all the vetting that's been done with it as well. So very, very good. This does work well for swing traders, position traders, long-term traders. As we showed, you can use it on any time frame that you might be interested in. And it works well on equities, indices. You can apply it to any market that you want. It's ideal if you're a novice and if you're an expert. A lot of people have, it's surprising to me, and I did mention it earlier, that a lot of people like to be able to scan for just and say, okay, give me a list of the stocks that are really, really, really undervalued. And there might be, that might actually be a big list right now. And I do like the fact that you can scan for those, you can scan for the buy setups, and there's a lot of different ways you can kind of implement it. So it is also fully developed in Metastock. You get the explorations, the indicator, the expert, the commentary, all that kind of stuff is very, very well put together. I really like the way John put everything together. So normally the cost of the actual add-on is only $14.95. It's a one-time cost. You don't have to pay for it over and over and over again. We are going to do a special. John already told you about it. It's $9.97 here. Well, here, I mean, on today, I guess is a better way to put that. We did sit down after we kind of released it, and we did an advanced training class. If you need Metastock, if you're watching this and you just found out about Metastock for the first time, I will say Metastock has been rated #1 in its price category 29 years in a row. It's really good at doing market scanning and giving you expert advice and highlights and all of that kind of stuff. And there's a reason it's been rated #1, 30, 20, 29, maybe 30. They haven't announced the winners yet. But hopefully, I'd love to be able to say 30. It's a lot more memorable than 29. But if you don't have Metastock, we'll give you a trial of Metastock. We'll give you data to go with it. We'll also give you a money-back guarantee. So it's a really good risk-reward ratio if you want to try this out. And you can try it out. If you decide you like it, you can keep it. You can go through all the training. If you don't like it, you can get a full refund on it. So I wish I could get a full refund on a few of the trades I made last year, but not all of them. But this is a really, really good opportunity for you. As part of it, if you're new to Metastock, we will actually have somebody help you with anything you need. Even if you're existing user to Metastock, you know our support team is always available available during business hours. I shouldn't say always, but they're available during business hours, and they do a really good job of helping you out and kind of supporting you. And they do. I mean, I just saw a comment that was up on our YouTube channel about somebody saying, I think the exact wording that they said was support at Metastock was a hidden gem. So you can take advantage of this whole offer. You can give us a call, 800-882-3040. If you want, you can also chat online with us, metastock.com/sales-chat. And if you want to do it online, metastock.com/value-chart will you get this offer. So $9.97, 30-day money-back guarantee. Give it a go. If you don't like it, we'll give you a refund. What kind of risk is that? So give it a go. See how you like it. 800-882-3040, metastock.com/sales-chat, metastock.com/value-chart. John, thank you again for coming in. We do really, really appreciate your time, spending some time with us. For those of you that are watching the video either right now or in the future sometime, thank you for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If there's anything we can do to help you, let us know. Stay healthy. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you at the next one.
Hi, Kelly Clement here from Metastock. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you found it instructive and informative. If you did, what I'd like to invite you to do is go ahead and like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us a great deal, and it helps us bring you more awesome content like today's video. So go ahead and like and subscribe, and keep on watching.